What up, YouTube? This is Steven, and welcome back to another video. In this video, I want to talk about dark-skinned black men who have a preference for light-skinned black women, and I'll also include biracial women in that category as well. And basically, I just want to sort of, I guess, give maybe a defense, because a lot of times when it comes to who dark-skinned black men date, a lot of people seem to have an opinion about that for some reason. A lot of people seem to be really critical about that, and just like with a magnifying glass, just looking like, who's he dating? For some reason, I don't know, like folks, especially like black women, really fixate on who dark-skinned black men date. I have theories about why that is, but I think for now I'll just skip over those theories and just go into the topic, right? In defense of dark-skinned black men who have a preference for light-skinned and biracial or biracial black women, right? One reason is I think that perhaps dark-skinned black men may have those women in their family, right? Either perhaps like their mom could be light-skinned, they perhaps have aunts who are light-skinned, perhaps a grandmother who's light-skinned, women in their family who are light-skinned, or even just people in their family who are light-skinned. They could come from like a family that has a lot of light-skinned people, so I think that could have an influence over who they may gravitate towards as far as dating and having kids, relationship, marriage, etc. So I think that's one of the reasons. Another reason is I think that perhaps light-skinned and biracial women do kind of seem to respond well to them. Like when they try to holler, they seem to be interested, right? Yeah. And often maybe even as well, there's a genuine interest between both parties. And also, those women like put them on a pedestal, right? They make them feel like they're like really important, really handsome, etc. Right? As well, the women probably kind of like dote on their features, like, oh wow, you're so dark, so handsome, so strong, etc. Right? And of course, who doesn't want to be doted on? Who doesn't want to people to, talk positively about the features that they have, right? And I think light-skinned women probably seem to, maybe that's partially the reason, and they seem to respond well to those features that dark-skinned men have. I know I had this coworker, and dark-skinned, Native African, and he was like somewhere, and he was talking to this light-skinned or mixed girl, and she had said something to the extent of like, wow, you're so dark, but it was in a positive way, and I think that's something that he told me about, so I think that's something that he kind of like kept with him, right? And that may be an influence over some darker skinned men, having positive interactions, right? with light skinned and biracial women, right? Another reason why I think some dark-skinned men may gravitate towards lighter-skinned women is because they're like a mix for them. They're a mix of exotic but familiar. Kind of like the exotic part the exotic part comes from their non-black heritage, whatever that may be, right? Usually white, but it's not necessarily that, right? But also familiar because they do have like, you know, features that are black or at least reminiscent of blackness. So I think that may play a part in it too. So it's like you kind of get a taste of the exotic, but also like you're not outside of the community. You can still bring her to the cookout, bring her home to meet your mama and the rest of your family. And, they might be a little like, but, I think, they won't trip too much. Your mom, okay, she black, I guess. Right. Um, quick sidebar. All right, quick. I have this coworker. She's a dark skinned woman, and I think her husband that she married was a dark skinned man too, right? She had came home to meet came to meet his family, right? And then she said like his mom saw her, and she was like, "Oh, she's dark skinned." But the thing was like, his mom is dark skinned too, so she's like, "What the hell? Like really?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm as dark as you." But it was said in like a negative way. It wasn't like, "Oh wow, she's dark skinned," like oh, in a positive way, like, "Oh okay, you finally brought home a dark skinned woman." So I think that is sort of like fucked up, right? To receive something like that from someone who is the same skin tone as you, right? um, and I got a sidebar, right? Um, but I think part of the point of that sidebar is like the family influence, right? Because if his mom's kind of saying, you brought home, this dark skinned chick, I don't know about that, right? Of course they got married and had 2 kids or whatnot, but still, right? But some people may be thinking like, I might need to bring home a light skinned woman, you know, because unfortunately, we do have that colorism issue that we have to deal with. But it's like, oh, we don't want have too many dark skinned people in the family or something like, not exactly like that, of course, but it's like, you might need to bring home someone that lighten up the family, perhaps. Of course that's ignorant, and of course I don't agree with that, but that is something that is a part of our community, right? Unfortunately. So I think and just in general, if you are a dark skinned person, you may be feeling like, oh well, are my features considered like valuable, or considered you know worthy, desirable, right? Because I do hear about sometimes it's like, oh, sometimes it's like something to the extent of like, oh, two dark skinned people getting together is kind of like maybe seen as a little odd or a little weird. But me personally, I think that two dark skinned people together isn't necessarily odd. I actually think two light skinned people together is kind of odd, because I don't seem to really see that as much as I see two dark skinned people together. But that's, I guess, just my personal experience and personal view. But yeah, I really think that the community, as far as what they will promote two dark skinned people together before they would promote two light skinned people together. I kind of think that. And of course, I think that goes back into the past, where it's like, oh, light skinned people being, acting like they are being bougie, sedity, uppity, what have you, and just trying to keep, the light skinnedness in the family, and just continue the light skinnedness, right? So I think when people see that, maybe they might have that in their mind, like, oh, so they too good for a dark skinned person, too good for a brown skinned, dark skinned person in your family, have a kid with. You too good for that, But okay, that was a sidebar. Let's get back to the topic, right? Um, so, what was it? I think I lost my train of thought. the exotic and the familiar, right? So, and I think that because of like where the society we live in, where it's kind of like pumps out the whole like, white is right. Thus, in this case, white women would be right. It's kind of like, well, you kind of got aspects of like white women that you may like, but you also have aspects of black women that you like, and you have them both mixed together, you know? So I think that may play a part in it too. So you kind of like, oh, kind of like almost, I don't want to say it, almost kind of like, build a black woman workshop, or, build a light skinned black woman workshop, Um, so I think that may have an influence as well. Um, and I probably should have mentioned this earlier in the beginning of this video, but, of course, I'm probably not the best person to be talking about this topic for obvious reasons, right? But I kind of feel like my point of view could be worth something, could be kind of worth something, right? So, yeah, I guess, no, I mentioned 3 reasons, right? Let's see. Also, I think the media, because a lot of times when you see, dark skinned, brown skinned black men in the media, a lot of times they do have light skinned women on their arms, right? And in the movies and television shows, you see that a lot too, right? Like, oh, a light skinned wife, brown skinned dude, brown skinned husband. They pump that out a lot, right? Like, let's see some sitcoms we can name, like, um, shoot, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, perhaps, or My Wife and Kids, Martin. Also, that movie that was just in theaters, Almost Christmas, that was one. I think, then there was another one, too. Some other Christmas movie about black folk, too. I forgot. But yeah, you do see those examples in the media that's perpetuating that narrative and like, oh, kind of getting into your mind, like, I think I might need a light-skinned chick on my arms, right? Because, that's what folks be doing. Like, that's what people kind of want from me and expect from me, right? So I think the media plays a part in that, too. You know. And perhaps maybe even their interactions with dark-skinned women play a part in it, too. Like, perhaps they may have had some bad interactions with dark-skinned women. Dark-skinned women may have called them like some type of like really disparaging names that perhaps they kind of carried with them still, perhaps to an extent. A lot of times I hear from like these dark-skinned dudes talking about the 80s and like when black women want light-skinned babies with green eyes and good hair, right? But I'm like, well, this is a new day, right? I don't think black women are really on that as much, nearly as much now. I think they're kind of like on the opposite. Like, I want, the blackest of the black to have my baby with, right? But I think that may play a part in it too, where it's like you have bad interactions with people who perhaps look like you, and they may feel like, oh, wow, like, I don't think I want to go over there, I'm having bad interactions, when I try to holla, you kind of like giving me shifty, shady looks, you ain't feeling me, but, you know, this lady over here, she's has a pleasant attitude, she's really feeling me, etc., etc., right? So I think that plays a part in it too. And as well, maybe even like, oh, kind of like, I hate to say this, but maybe having your beauty or your handsomeness validated by someone who isn't reflective of you. Like, who is someone who is like not quote unquote black per se, you know. And I think that happens with like interracial dating more so, but I mean, when it's inside the community, I guess it's a little different, you know. But having like, oh wow, you know, this person sees me and my features as something of value, something to be desired, and they can, you know, genuinely do feel that way a lot of the times, which even adds more fuel to the fire. Like, oh wow, you know. Again, these are just things that I'm noticing and picking up on. Of course, these obviously wouldn't be my personal experiences, obviously, but I kind of, I don't know, I'm picking up on some stuff, right? I could be wrong, I could be right, I could be partially wrong, partially right. Um, you know, this is a good time for, like, you know, to leave comments and leave feedback, right? You think that I'm onto something, or do you think that I'm just, you know, smoking on some dope or something? um, let's see. Let me think. Let me think. I think perhaps I can think of one more topic or one more reason, right? Huh. You know, I'll present this one as the last one. I think this is probably the best one, the best for last, right? I think that, you know, the dark-skinned man could just honestly just have a preference for, you know, light-skinned or biracial women that's not rooted in, you know, some type of a self-hate or self-loathing type of thing. Maybe he just genuinely just likes those features, you know? And I guess that's a little controversial because we always kind of expect people to like the features that reflect them, and they people may feel like, oh, you know, her features don't reflect him, so why should she like him? Well, why should he? Basically, why, you know, he's interested in her, right? Where does that interest come from, right? That whole analyzing thing, right? When it comes to who dark-skinned black men date for some reason, right? Um, and I think honestly, it could just be like, oh wow, you know, she looks nice, you know. You just say, oh wow, those are, you know, she looks nice, has nice features, you know. I guess maybe that's a loaded term to say nice features, but features that appeal to him. How about that? Because usually, like, people don't seem to analyze when dark skin, well, scratch that. They don't seem to analyze when light skinned women have a preference for dark skinned men, or even when light skinned people in general have a preference towards darker skinned people. The topic never comes up of, oh, that light skinned person is a self hater. They don't like the, you know, their people who have their features. They like other people who don't have features like them. No one ever really goes in on light skinned folks like that. You know, for some reason, light skinned people get a pass on that. Light skinned people can kind of like whoever the hell they want to like, and folks don't really be going too badly in on them like that for some reason. I don't know. I don't know why. But I'll bring this video to a close for now. So thanks for watching. Feel free to comment, definitely. If, you know, feedback for this particular topic does, you know, is very extremely appreciated. So thanks for watching. Adios and goodbye for now.